What if the most profound journey you could ever take wasn't to some distant land, but to a place deep, deep inside yourself? Today, we're diving into the Interior Temple, an incredible 17th century guide from the mystic Miguel de Molinos, which promises exactly that, a pathway to an inner sanctuary.
So this quote is really our starting point, and it's not just some nice poetic language. Think of it as a map. Molinos is telling us that way beyond all the noise of our daily lives, there's this sacred space. Our goal today is to figure out what that sanctuary is and, maybe more importantly, what it takes to actually find it.
So, what exactly is this interior temple that the text is describing? It's not just a metaphor for happiness or, a physical place. It's something much, much deeper.
And here's a really crucial distinction the text makes. This isn't about finding your happy place. It's about finding a place of truth, a place where you embrace everything, and that includes hardship and suffering, as part of the divine will. This is where the real connection happens.
And this is a huge idea. The kind of communication that goes on in this inner temple, well, it's not something you can reason your way into. It's not something you can see or hear or touch. It's a completely different way of knowing, one that goes way beyond logic and even our feelings.
Okay, so if this space is beyond our senses, how in the world do we get there? The guide is really clear. This is not some casual stroll. It's a deliberate journey, and it requires some intense preparation.
This question right here, it gets to the absolute heart of the first big challenge. The text argues our lives are just filled with two kinds of static, right? You've got the noise of the outside world, and then you have the constant chatter of our own thoughts. To hear that divine voice, you first have to create silence.
So, how do you create that silence? Well, the guide says it's about this radical act of letting go of two things. First, that part of you, the one that insists on its own way, its own desires, its own comforts. And second, you have to let go of any attachment to things outside of a singular divine focus. That means people, possessions, even your own interests.
Look, this journey isn't about self-improvement or trying to gain some spiritual powers. The one and only goal here is total surrender. It's about shifting your entire focus from what do I want to what is the divine will, and then aligning yourself completely with that.
And this quote, wow, it just captures the whole essence of the preparation. It's a powerful metaphor, a death to self. Not a physical death, of course, but a complete letting go of the ego and all those personal desires to make room for something much deeper.
Now, once that inner space is cleared out, the journey continues with a really crucial choice. The text presents two different paths to climb spiritually, but it warns that only one of them leads to a truly lasting connection.
And this is just a fascinating contrast. You've got the path of feeling, which is super tempting, right? It's all about those spiritual highs, those feelings of joy, but the text says it's built on the shifting sands of emotion. Then you have the path of will. This is the solid foundation, built on conscious choice and determination, no matter how you might be feeling at any given moment.
The text makes a really bold and uncompromising claim here. It's arguing that spiritual strength isn't about how much you feel, but about the strength of your will, your resolve. It's that determination, not your emotions, that lets you overcome the obstacles on this path.
So, if the path of will is the way to go, what does that journey actually look like? Well, the guide doesn't leave us hanging. It lays out a very clear, three-stage progression of the climb.
You can really see the natural evolution here. It all starts with detachment. As you're filled with this divine love, you just kind of naturally lose interest in worldly things. That leads to immersion, where you're so filled with this love that it's almost overwhelming. And finally, all of this leads to a state of rest, where love completely drives out fear, allowing for that total, complete surrender. This brings us to the summit of the entire journey, that final stage called rest. But don't let the name fool you. This isn't about taking a break. It's a state of profound, active, and absolute surrender. It's the whole point of the climb.
This is probably the most challenging and radical idea in the whole guide. Absolute surrender means letting go of everything, even your own concern for your personal fate or salvation. It's about placing the divine will above absolutely everything else. And here it is, the ultimate test of that surrender. Just let that sink in. The text is asking us to imagine being willing to accept damnation if it were part of the divine plan. It's a radical idea that challenges our most basic survival instincts, and it represents the complete dissolution of the ego.
So what's the reward for such a radical act of surrender? I mean, why would you do it? According to the text, it's nothing less than a complete transformation. All internal fear is just eliminated. The empty space you've created is filled entirely with divine love, and the result is an unbreakable union with the divine and access to what it calls its infinite treasures.
And that brings us to the end of our exploration of the interior temple. We're going to leave you with this final, really challenging question to ponder. What would it actually mean in your life to let go so completely that your own personal desires become secondary to a higher purpose? It's a question that gets right to the heart of what it means to be human and to seek something beyond ourselves.
For more spiritual resources, visit lokaken.ai.